In 1965, as an impressionable 14-year-old, Raymond Lee watched James Bond make a daring escape using a Bell jetpack. The movie was Thunderball. Raymond was thunderstruck. He wanted to fly. In 2003, as an impressive 52-year-old engineer, Raymond Lee began conducting extensive research, concept development, and testing on the first ever water-powered jetpack. In early 2012, America's first and Hawaii's only commercial installation was created at Seabreeze H2O Sports. So now it's your turn.
His needs are more, so he gives less.
Flying the H2O jetpack is a relatively straightforward matter of control and balance, but it helps to have a basic idea of how the equipment functions. There are three components. First, there's a sleek little unmanned boat. We call it a pod. It contains the engine that pumps water to the jetpack. Second, there's the water hose that is connected to both the pod and the jetpack. And finally, there's the H2O jetpack itself. Once the pod unit is started, it pumps water through the hose and into the control nozzles. They, in turn, provide lift. For your first flight, we're going to keep things fairly basic. First, you are seated in the jetpack rigging. You'll learn that the control arms will determine your up and down motion. For now, the idea is to move the control arms together.
So these are your control arms. They'll move you up and down. Yes, they can move independently, but today we'll move them together as if they're connected.
Press down on the control arms and you'll go down. Lift up on the controls and you'll go up. Do the arms together and slowly until you have a feel for the jetpack. Okay, so you're going to direct up and down movement with the control arms working together. And you're going to change direction by using your shoulders, not your hands.
So simply lean to the right, drop your shoulder a little lower than your left, and you'll move to the right. Lean back to the left, and a little low, and you'll move to the left. Okay.
Lean right and drop your right shoulder to go right. Lean left and drop your left shoulder and you'll go left. In flight, it looks like this. Lean in the direction you want to go, drop that shoulder, and don't use your hands to turn. You will be secured in a 5-point harness similar to what are used in race cars. To release the safety harness, just reach down and turn the buckle all the way to the left, then all the way to the right. In the water, you can then simply float away from the jetpack, which will not sink. The helmet you will be wearing is equipped with a headset that will allow your instructor to speak to you. This will be a one-way conversation, so respond with appropriate head and hand gestures. For your first flight, an instructor will be controlling your throttle. Believe us, you'll have enough to remember without having to take control of the thrust being driven through the jetpack's nozzles.
Alright, so in a few seconds what we're going to do is have you take a giant step into the water, just so your pack clears the back of the dock. Alright, let me double check you real quick. Everything looks good. Ready to go?
Ready.
Alright, big step in.
You don't have to worry about sinking, because the jetpack is positively buoyant. So are you, because you're wearing a life jacket.
See? Popped right back up.
Once in the water, make sure that you are seated, sitting straight up, not leaning forward or backward. Arms should be in a neutral position, body centered in the pack, and legs flutter kicking to help keep you seated. Yes, your instructor will be controlling the throttle, but you are in charge of the pod, which really means you are in control of the safety key. So anytime your instructor says, pull the key, pull it. Anytime you do an erratic move and crash in the water, pull the key. And anytime you are told to pull the key, pull the key. Your instructor may be aware of some possibly dangerous situation that you don't see. Since this is really important, we'll practice it in the water, both with your eyes open and your eyes closed, as if you're momentarily underwater. When the key is attached, you will see a red and green light. This light pattern means that your instructor has control.
You'll be able to operate the ignition when you get a green light only.
At this point, you will be able to start the unit by pushing and holding the button on the bottom of the throttle assembly. Let's say you take a plunge while in flight. Of course, you pull the key and the pod engine stops. So what do you do now? If the red and green lights come on when you reinsert the key, this means your instructor can't give you control to restart the pod engine. You must first move the throttle assembly to the off position.
So why do you have to turn off your throttle when you never had control of your throttle?
That's a good question, since the instructor, after all, operates the thrust. Well, sometimes new pilots accidentally turn the throttle control while in flight, putting it in the on position. In order to reboot the system, you first have to turn it off. So turn the throttle assembly counterclockwise, knuckles in toward the body, until you reach the off position. Now, you can restart the engine pod. When the instructor engages the throttle, water fills the hose, races up to the jetpack, and provides what we call a kick. This is normal. Don't be alarmed. Your flight pattern will consist of 3 levels. Level 1 is called a low water taxi. Your chest will come out of the water, so water isn't splashing in your face. At the beginning of level 1, you will stop flutter kicking. Once the jet nozzles are operating, kicking will upset your balance. Level 2 is the mid-water taxi. This time, you go a bit higher and your knees will be out of the water, and you'll have a greater sense of flight. You will also have had a chance to get comfortable with the whole H2O jetpack concept. In level 3, your feet come out of the water and you're really flying. Your instructor will be controlling your thrust and watching closely to see how well you adapt to this experience. Again, no kicking. Stay centered on the seat and move the control arms together. Lower a shoulder and lean slightly to change direction. Eventually, your instructor will bring you in for a deep water landing by reducing the thrust through the jetpack nozzles. You will enter water that will be deep enough that you can't stand in it. The Seabreeze H2O jetpack. It's not a toy. Engineers the caliber of Raymond Lee don't spend 9 years of their lives perfecting toys.
Nope, but it's a plaything.
It is an awesome family plaything that you'll want to experience again and again.